Hello everyone, welcome back. It's Space Engineers Plus Me, Episode 9. I'm Enigmius, and today we're going to talk a little bit about what we learned from our little ship, and we're going to start building a bigger ship. That's the summary, that's what we're going to be doing. We made some changes to our little cargo hauler since the time that we basically finished building it and took it out on its first mission. What basically happened is I landed next to our most commonly used mineral deposit, and I went and I mined up a bunch of stuff and I threw it in the cargo container, not realizing that I had left the thrusters on, drained all the power, and I wasn't able to move the ship. It takes a really, really long time to charge up the batteries on a ship with two small solar panels. Takes a very, very long time. So what I ended up doing was I went back to the base and picked up enough materials so that I could grind down the batteries on the ship and replace them. Batteries are designed in such a way specifically so that if you grind them down, the power cells that are one of the components that go into making them are destroyed. They're reduced to scrap. You can take the scrap and refine it and get some ingots back out of it, but the cells themselves are destroyed so that you can't just grind down a battery and then put it back into place immediately. The reason for this is when you build a battery, it comes with 30% charge. It was much faster and cost effective for me to go and get the materials for enough power cells to go back to the ship, grind down all the batteries, replace them with new ones, each at 30% charge, than it was to wait on the solar panels so that I could go and do whatever it was I needed to do. But I didn't come up with that idea right away. I decided at first that I would be patient and let the solar panels charge up the batteries and see how that worked. While it was doing that, I decided that I might as well be productive since it was parked right outside of our mineral deposit. And I mined up a bunch more minerals and filled up the cargo container that was on the ship. And when the batteries were replaced and I had the charge to try and move the ship, I learned that we didn't have enough thrusters on the ship for us to be able to control it when the cargo container was full. There was too much weight for the thrusters that we had, and it was kind of a nightmare trying to get it to do anything, much less get back to our base. So once again, I went back to our base, got enough materials for two more large atmospheric thrusters, put the thrusters on the ship. You see them now sticking off the sides. Works much better. Got the ship full of minerals back up to our base, and we had replaced the ejector on the ship and the collector on the landing pad with a pair of connectors, which not only transfer the ore to the station much faster than the ejector plus the collector, they also allow you to transfer things like power. So we could transfer power from the station's batteries to the ship's batteries. Saves waiting on the ship to charge up with just two solar panels. That was kind of a neat idea. Also, if you had oxygen or hydrogen containers on the ship, you could transfer from the station inventory to the ship as well for oxygen and hydrogen. So really well worth having the connectors on in place of ejectors and collectors. And those were the two major changes that we made to the ship after we finished building it. And we learned a lot from it. We learned a lot from the process of gathering the minerals and trying to get them on the ship from our inventory. We had to do a little bit of careful parkour to get up to where the container was so that we could put the minerals in there. We learned a little bit about that. We learned a little bit, of course, about considering what the ship is going to handle like when its cargo containers are full relative to how it handles when the ship is brand new and the cargo containers are empty, and accounting for that with the number of thrusters that we have on board. We learned a little bit about how much we can really expect to get out of solar panels for charging the ship's batteries if it's stranded without power. And we generally just, had a little bit of fun messing around with a ship that was really, really difficult to control. Even when we put the extra thrusters on, that was only enough to give us lift. Really, actually controlling it in any other direction aside from up was kind of a pain in the butt. But we got it done, and now it's time to look at a new ship. The next logical step in the evolution of our ship designs. We want to make a ship that's going to allow us to use larger drills to gather minerals and get them back to base. So rather than just having a ship that we park next to manual mining sites, we're going to have a ship that will latch on to an area with landing pads and then use drills on pistons to extend into the minerals, drill up the minerals, put them in storage, dump out all the stone so we're not carrying around extra weight and useless stone, and then fly back to our base and unload it all for refining and things of that nature. It's possible to put things like refineries onto ships, but it's a question of how much power you're going to use running refineries while you're doing all these other things. power is not something we have in abundance these days. We won't have power in abundance, really, I think, until we get out into space and we're able to start gathering uranium. I think I was reading someone saying that for the planetary starts, the moons are usually the first place that you're going to find uranium. Depending on how you started things, you may not necessarily have access to asteroids, or if you do, they're a long ways away from the planets. So the moon is basically, we've decided this is going to be our next major goal. Getting off the planet, getting to the moon, gathering resources on the moon, and then getting safely back to the planet. And it's when we do that we're going to start getting the uranium that we need to worry a little bit less about how much power we have. Because right now, it's our major limiting force is the amount of power. So this ship that we're making now is going to be much larger than the one that we currently have. It's going to have a lot more thrusters. It's going to have a fair bit more cargo storage. It's going to be a little bit more involved in the item handling. Like I say, it's hopefully going to filter the stone and just jettison it from the ship as soon as it comes on, as opposed to carrying it around. It's going to have the drills on it that are managed by pistons, the connector that's going to be built onto the ship so that we can connect it to our base and unload materials, and also hopefully recharge and gather whatever else we need off of the ship, out of the base. We'll probably be on at least 1 or 2 pistons so that we can have it retracted into the ship when we're just flying around doing our thing, and then when it comes time to dock, we can extend the connector out, make it a little bit easier that way. And realistically speaking, it's not just the function of the ship that's going to be the next step up in terms of the evolution. It's also going to be learning how to use all of these different things will be the next step up in terms of the learning curve for us. Bigger, more useful ships and all the things that go with it. But there was a patch today, and it kind of caught me off guard. It's some performance fixes, some bug fixes, some things that were definitely very welcome. But when I went to start building this ship, I started with the landing gear that's placed. You say, I want to build a new small ship, and it gives you a specific landing gear that you place. And I'm pretty sure in previous iterations, as soon as you place it, it's stuck to the ground, and then you can attach things to it and not have to worry about it tipping over. In this case, you can't. I just bumped it, and it fell over. And at that point, I mean, there's really nothing that you can do aside from grind it down and start over. So, I mean, I was kind of amused, to be completely honest. It wasn't far enough along in the process for me to be irritated at having to start over, but just having it tip over like that, I was kind of amused. And I learned that maybe this has always been the case, but at least as my understanding is, regardless of what it used to be, now we know you have to actually finish welding up the landing gear in order for it to stick to the ground when you select to build a new ship with the small landing gear so that it sticks. That was my first lesson in this entire process. And then from there, it was actually pretty straightforward. I didn't want to build too complicated of a chassis until I'd started getting the major systems in place. I figured it would be a lot easier to just do like a stick frame sort of chassis, get the landing gears in place, and then start building on the major systems and see where we go in terms of where we can fit things around this or that to make it look like a ship instead of just a collection of strange things that are going to do different jobs. The idea is we don't want to be building a bunch of stuff and finding out that we didn't leave ourselves enough room for all the different things that we want, and then you end up having to grind it all down anyways. Because in this game, it's pretty common that you start grinding things to change something you've already done, and without even really thinking about it, you grind out a key connecting piece and half of your chassis just falls off. It's just a thing. It's the way it goes. So I wanted to put a little bit of thought into it insofar as not getting too carried away. Early on, I wanted to get everything sort of squared away, make sure I have given enough thought to what I want on this ship, and then we'll worry about building around it. So we're going to have the main central area of the ship is going to be a bunch of stacked pistons that will have, at this point, I'm thinking 5 drills on the end of them, but we'll see in terms of the space that we have. And the landing gears that we're sitting on now will be one set of landing gears. The other set will be on the front of the ship. So if you imagine the ship flying forward and it just latches onto the side of a mountain with the landing gears, and then it can start drilling from there. That's the whole idea. So we're going to have a set of landing gears on the front of the ship to do that. And then we'll extend the drills on the pistons through the mineral deposit, retract the pistons, get the drills back clear of the hole, and then move the ship and just repeat. That's the theory. That's the design concept. We'll see how it goes, and I'm expecting some spectacular failures, and of course I'll do my best to record all of them so that we can have a bit of a chuckle at my expense, but also because sometimes it's not necessary to reinvent the wheel. So if you see me doing it wrong and you're having an opportunity to consider it later, you already know something wonky this way comes. So in terms of the systems overall that we're going to have on the ship, we know we need power. I thought about putting a bunch of solar panels on the ship, and I also thought about having them folded into the ship. So when we get into a position where we're latched into place, we don't have to worry about things getting crazy. We can fold out the solar panels, store up some power. And then I realized with my luck, what would happen is we would find ourselves completely depleted for power, and with all the solar panels folded in where they can't do anything for us. So solar panels are still an option. Not too likely that we're going to try and fold them into the ship when they're not in use. We're just probably going to leave them where they can be useful no matter what's going on. And we'll go from there. Lots of storage, lots of item routing so that we can control what's going where and control our weight by not carrying around things that we don't need to be carrying, like stone. Lots of lights so that we can be operating day or night without having to worry too much about not being able to see what we're doing. Lots of thrusters, lots of gyroscopes so that we have control and we have the ability to do things when the ship is heavy with the cargo. We would like to be getting lots and lots of minerals so that we can take them back to the base, refine them, and build big ships that are really cool, that we have enough minerals to build. We have a very large pad on which to work here for building ships, and it wouldn't be a bad idea to take advantage of it. So that's what we're going to try and do. But this ship has to perform in order for that to become a reality. And realistically, outside of those things, storage, the ability to extract the minerals and look after our drills, store power and generate a little bit of power, that's kind of the core of what we need from the ship. So it's just a matter of getting everything into place and setting it up in a way that works. So the next episode, we're going to be just building. That's all we're going to be doing. We're going to be taking a look at the building process, the things we're adding, where we put things, what we put on the ship specifically, and then let you guys see the building process. And then also, if we have time, we'll take a look at it in service. And if we don't have time to look at it in service, the episode immediately after will be all about the ship mining and doing the things that we want it to do, and maybe some base updates just to fill in a little bit of extra time. So if you want to be notified when I add those episodes, the easiest way to do that is to subscribe to my channel and or follow me on social media. Links for social media are always in the information box below the video. Please leave your comments and feedback. Thanks for watching, guys, and take care.